the Brandy.
Hello once again, and welcome to yet another edition of Get Me The Brandy, the April 1st edition. And of course, when you think of April 1st, you think of April Fools. And I'm sure that many of you have played a joke on someone. But if any of you have ever decided to do that to Jay Caufield, it would be your first and last mistake. Jay, how are you, buddy?
Good, Dan. How are you? Nice
Hey,
to
I'm
see you.
very, very good. After what the Penguins did
Good.
to open up the week with a victory
Yeah.
at the Islanders and a victory on home ice against the Red Wings, they are no joke. Speaking of April Fools, 38
Yeah,
wins,
no.
92 points. You got to
Yeah.
look. I'll get into each game in particular, the last two in just a second. But what does it mean? What's the most, I don't know, impressive thing that you saw from each of those two wins that stands out that makes them maybe feel, as they get ready to play Tampa tomorrow, hey, we're in a good place?
Yeah. Well, I think they've dominated the opponent. I mean, the Islanders, yeah, they were trailing, but they don't falter. They don't fall apart. They don't start jumping and taking chances and be out of control and give up more opportunities. They stayed out of the game plan, Dan, and they get after it, and then they took over the game. And they're better than, if you went through four lines, they're better than the Islanders. They're better than Detroit last night. And then it comes down to goaltending, and the goaltending has been better. So I think all those things would make you feel good going forward. Now, Tampa Thursday night, that's a different animal. That's a different beast. They got outstanding. Vasilevsky is one of the best, ever really to play the game. You got Kucherov, you've got Point, you got Hagel, you got Jake Gensel. They're loaded. But still, what the Penguins do is they stifle teams. They make it very difficult. So they're the things that I look at, Dan. Yeah, Tampa Bay is one of the best, but they got passed by Buffalo. This is going to be tight for them. So this is a big game for the Lightning. They're not like just cruising into the playoffs. There's a lot going on. Montreal, Tampa, and Buffalo are all in a big race as well. I just think the way the Penguins are playing, they take care of their own business. They don't care who they're playing. Their locker room is loaded with veteran leadership. And when guys are down, guys have picked up. I think that's the other part too. It didn't matter who was out of lineup. They just come together. They mix the lines up and find something good. And the coaching staff has done just a phenomenal job. As you and I have talked so many nights, Dan, they've been very, very good, but very impressive in the two games where everybody thought one of the bigger games of the year against the Islanders, and they smothered them, and they just were that much better than the Islanders.
What does it do for a team like the Penguins in the current position that they're in to go into the island or go to the island, find themselves down in a hole 2-0 and 3-1, and come back? Not only come back, but get that big burst offensively in the second period, mentally at this stage of the season.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think first of all, you're sending a message to them. You're sending a message to the league. You took the game over. It's a team you could face if everybody gets in. I mean, really, if you're looking at it, second and third in the Metro is going to be between the Pens, Islanders, and Columbus. Philly's fighting, but they lost last night. So I think that you went into New York and took care of the Islanders the way you did. That's a major message right there. That you get to Sorokin. That's a couple times now they've put up a big number on him, and he's one of the best in the game. I think coming back from that, I think coming back from the deficit, Dan, to your point, really makes them a team that's going to be hard to play against. It's a never say die, never quit attitude. Intestinal fortitude, whatever phrase you want to use, they have it. So I think that's it. And I think winning in the island is something big because now they know they're in the heads of the Islanders, and they play good, strong hockey as well, the Island, but the Penguins are just deeper right now. All four lines are very good. So, and Carlson taking it to a whole nother level, Dan. Yeah, I think it's a great message and a great spot for the Penguins to be in.
So let's go ahead and fast forward 24 hours, back end of back-to-backs, never easy, facing a Wings team that, yes, they have cooled off compared to the team that we saw back in January, but fighting for their playoff lives. The Penguins, how do they avoid a letdown by coming out and really, as you like to say, they had their legs, but not only for the start of the
Yeah.
game, they had it for 60 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't feel, I know I've heard that comment a lot, like it could be a letdown. I didn't feel that because I'm sure they looked at you had two games back to back against people fighting for playoff spot. The Pens haven't been in the playoffs for a number of years. This is and there's a whole group of new personnel, new blood in the locker room, if you will. I didn't feel that there could be the letdown. I thought what might happen, though, Dan, would be Detroit was sitting there waiting. They're under the gun. They're faltering, and they've done this so many years in a row in Detroit. I thought Detroit would come out better than what they did. I didn't fear that the Pens wouldn't come out and have their game. I never thought that, and I know it's from a high to now you're just playing another game. No, I think the high was you win there, you come back into your building. The fans were unbelievable. It was loud. It was energetic. It was like a playoff type atmosphere. You were right down there as in the mix of it. That's how what I felt about it, Dan. I didn't feel that there would be a letdown. The games are too big. You're in the final, 10 games, now 9 games and going into 8. I didn't think there would be that. And so that never entered my mind because I think the way they go about their business, guys are just doing their thing, and that makes them really dangerous.
So the month of March is now history. But before we close the book and move
Yep.
forward, the Penguins go 8-6-3, and 13 of the 17 games were against playoff teams that are currently in playoff position.
Yep.
Throughout that month, minus several players, notably Crosby and Malkin, for portions of time throughout the month of March. So with the
Yep.
mix that they had left to play with, uh, and the success that they had, is that kind of like proof that they're playoff ready? Because how much have we said this? Every game is a playoff like game.
Well, yeah, I that what you're driving at is something very important. I mean, if you looked at this when Sid got hurt in the Olympics, immediately everybody was like, "Well, what are their chances of getting into playoffs now?" That type of thing, right? Go back a month, and then it takes him a while to get himself back in the lineup. But what they did there was find pieces, move Rakell to the middle. I think the great thing that was happening was that Malcolm was on the wing already. Novak was doing a great job in the middle, but you had to find somebody to replace that and still keep chemistry and build offense off of every line that went out there. I think that was a pretty special. That's a special kind of group that pulled it together, and whoever the lines were, they still made something happen. Again, you said opponents that were, playoff bound, if you will, and they did what they needed to do. Again, they are deep. As players like Carlson took the game over, filled the void of missing key elements. That's I think it's it. I said this last night, and I'll continue to say it. There are. It's not just hey, when are they going to get in? They're going to be a major contender. They're going to be a problem for everybody they face, and I've been feeling this way for a while. It's not just now, but because it's a push. They're trying to get in. They're not in yet. We're not making any guarantees like they did in Columbus, right? We're not doing that. But I'm just saying they've set themselves up to be in a great spot. And I think anybody that they face, you look, it's going to be the draw too. What draw do you get? And your positioning. I still think it's between either Columbus and the Islanders, and who's that going to be, and who's the more difficult opponent. If and when you get in, that's what you're looking at. And I feel like the Pens are the more dangerous of everybody. All being equal, your goaltending has to be solid, like what we're seeing. It has to be good. If any of that falters, then it's going to be trouble. And that's for any team, right, Dan? That's any team. So all things being equal, and I expect either Skinner or Shilovs, to keep, hold the fort, whatever that's going to be. I really like where they're at. I like how they've been playing. And I said, I think the league has been taking notice, but they're really taking notice now.
You use the word dangerous, and I think that's a good
Yeah.
way to describe the play of Erik Karlsson throughout the month of March. But finishing a close second, maybe, Rickard Rakell certainly had a
Yeah.
big month of March. But I'm interested in your thoughts about what he was doing before the month of March, where he wasn't invisible, but obviously
No.
much playing at a much higher level in March.
Yeah. I mean, again, he's a guy that picked it up, right, Dan, for guys that were out of the lineup. I mean, look, the guy works his tail off every game. and sometimes it doesn't go in for you, whatever it might be. It's they're going in, they're not going in. If he didn't have his opportunities, that would be more of a problem. But he's always getting opportunities. And think about it, Dan. The lines, the adjustments of everything, coming back from the Olympics where he was really good in the Olympics. I mean, it's kind of, you're dealing with so many different pieces, but I do believe he's such a complete player that, there's going to be and there's going to be moments where it's not going your way. I think he's got on a roll out of it at a perfect time with guys out, and then you move on. But his work ethic never changed. They moved him into the middle. It's a whole different thing, just like Connor Dewar's doing on the fourth line, move from the wing to the middle. I just think it's more that he wasn't having the puck luck, if you will. They weren't going his way, but as long as the team rides and wins and they're a threat, then you're going to be okay. And he found himself and worked it right out of it. And now we look what he's doing as the month of March. He was outstanding, especially coming out of the Olympics. Very, very good.
So how important is it and easier said than done, but how important is it for him to continue to play at this level in order for the Penguins to be successful in the postseason?
Yeah, somebody's picking up. If somebody falters, there's been a guy to pick it up. I certainly think they need that production from all sorts. Everybody who's produced throughout the year, you need to keep it going as best you can. But that's what makes the Pens, that's what I'm going to go with, Dan. That's what makes them very tough, because you look at the lineup, whatever was pieced together last night, but just look what they can put together. If you keep Rust with Crosby and Rakell, and you somehow go back to Novak, Chinikov, and Malkin, then you have Kindle between Mantha and Brazeau, and then you get healthy. Your fourth line, you pick your poison now. Is it going to be, our big boy on the left side when Lazat gets back, or what are they going to do? Because Connor Dewar and Achari, they all have their role and they're outstanding. This has made a big. There's a lot of guys that can play right now, Dan. So I just think they all need to produce. You need to have them work in the same way. But as long as the four lines that they're making something happen every game, that's the ticket. The depth of the Penguins right now is better than I've seen it in I don't know how many years, but they're getting production up and down it. So somebody's always picking up a given night, Dan, when somebody's maybe cold. I think eventually they all break through one way or another. They're too good of players, but I think it's the depth that survives it, and you can keep moving on. So I just truly like the positioning of where they're at and who's there. And again, wait till Lazat comes back. That's going to be a big thing to see what happens lineup-wise. I'm really looking forward. I want to see what that's going to be like. But right now, you're going to ride without him through the regular season. Everybody to a man has been outstanding, Dan.
You mentioned the fact that Rickard and obviously other players have been asked to play in different positions, whether it be forward or wing or center. So as it pertains to Rickard Rakell, obviously he's done that. When you were playing and you saw teammates that were asked to switch over and move to other positions because of a need, did you see them struggle? Did you see them struggle and then get better? Or did you see some that just, hey, whatever, throw the stick, I'll go get it, and picked it up with no problem?
Yeah. I think it was more of that. From a winger to the middle, it's a whole different game, right? So, but the face-off circle responsibility that goes with it. I think the value of a player that is interchangeable, can play any forward position, to me is a value, such a big asset to a team. So, but Dan, if a coaching staff sees somebody struggling in a different position, they'll make the adjustments and move out of it. I think the team struggled in the faceoff circle, but as you noticed over the games, all that got better. Guys take pride in that. But that's a skill set. That's a skill set that if you haven't been doing it, where guys have been doing it their whole career, and you're going in there kind of raw, you can get exposed in that kind of situation. Just like any move in the NHL, you're going against the best in the game. So I think those areas the team realized it, they had to adjust. But as far as guys, that's what I think what's special about Rakell or Dewar, moving into that middle when they've been in the wing, that's a big step, and they're doing it for the team. They're doing whatever it takes for the team to have mentality. All those guys have it. Also, you do it. You stay in the lineup. You want to make sure those guys are never in danger of coming out. But other guys, hey, if you can't play that, we're not going to find a spot for you. It's different for them, but it's always something in your mind that You'll do whatever it takes. You want to help the team win, and being in the middle for Rakell and Dewar, the team needed it, and they've done a great job when they're in it.
But you know what, Jay? I think it also starts with a mindset, right? Like the coach has
Yeah.
the closed door meeting with the player, says that we're going to have to make this move. A player has to embrace that, right? They have to be willing within themselves. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe they have to have a conversation and say, all right, in their own head, I'm not really comfortable there, but got to find a way,
Yeah.
got to make it work, got to be good.
Yeah. Dan, I think it is. It's a tough spot. It is communication. It's between the coaching staff and player. By the way, also the coaching staff determining, can this guy do it? We need to keep him in the lineup, but we need somebody in the middle who can do it. It's all those things, Dan. It's a really good point. It's all those things. Like, you have to find a way that you make it work. And I said the face-off circle, we remember, believe we were doing the games, trying to think you were between the benches, at times and with us. But when I watched it, we saw the nights that the face-off success rate was pretty low. And you want to start. You lose in the draw, you lose in the face-off circle a lot. Sometimes it poses problems. So the team and the coaching staff adjust to that, as does the player. But I do believe, Dan, like, sometimes there are spots like, hey, you're going to be in the middle tonight, make the best of it. But no, think about their defensive responsibilities, though. That's where they're really good. Yep, they were losing in the circle, but they make up for it other ways. I do think, though, it's about communication. You hit the nail right on the head there. It's between coaching staff, closed door meeting, whatever it might be. And if a player is really uncomfortable with it, then he will go. He's going to open up and go, hey, that's not for me. I'm not a guy that can play the middle. I'm better on the wing. And then, but if it comes down to it, a star player, an elite player for the Pens, if they need him, he's going to give it a go, because it's what the team needs.
The road to puck drop begins on Penguins Tonight. A first look at the latest game news, stories from around the league, and so much more. Penguins Tonight, 1 hour before every game on SportsNet Pittsburgh. Presented by Morgan & Morgan.
Okay, so let's have a little fun with the playoff picture as it stands here on this first day of April. 8 points, separate 7 teams. And there you see a look at where things are in the Atlantic, the Metro, and of course the wild card. Just 2 weeks to go. That's crazy, right? 2 weeks ago. It feels like we just sat down in early October to start the season. So let's take a look at some of the teams, and let's start with the Bruins. Much like the Penguins, I don't know if a lot of people thought, the experts felt, that they would have the kind of success that they are having, but here they are. So let's talk about the Bruins and maybe where you expect them to kind of move down the line with the playoffs knocking on the door.
Well, that's a battle. That's why I think the teams that are going to end up, this is going to be close for, I'll go back to one thing about the Islanders and Columbus. They're going to find, if they don't make it into the Metro, they might not make a wild card, because the Atlantic has more of the teams, right? So just look at it. You have Montreal, Buffalo, and Tampa are in that battle for the Atlantic. Boston's right there, right? So it's going to be, you cannot go on a losing streak, or you're going to find yourself completely out if you don't get one of the second and third spots in the Metro Division. I think Boston, by the way, Dan, Buffalo, nobody saw this coming either, right? That's out of left field, right? It just on a GM change, and all of a sudden you rattle off one of the best runs for a team in quite some time. You got Buffalo, you've got Boston, you've got the Pens. Nobody thought those 3 teams would be in this hunt at all. Not only that, they're difficult to play against. Boston, tough. They added toughness, and it's perfect for their team. And they had this that go with it, and the goaltending. Nobody thought they'd be there. Then you get Buffalo, who's talent all over the place, and they make a great run, and they're getting to great goaltending. And we've been talking about the Pens all year long. Nobody. And, paired with that, you've got New York, has been awful, right? Florida, injuries derailed them. And then Toronto, they're out of the mix. Thank God they're kind of out of the mix, because otherwise this fight would be completely different. But you're talking about the teams that are right there. I'm telling you, none of the teams can get on. The Penguins have done a great job in that little separation. But the other teams, it's going to be a battle. Boston's done more than the Islanders and Columbus. So, Dan, I think it's going to be a real fight for that. I think as far as we're concerned, one of these Metro teams might not get in at all if they don't make the second or third spot in that Metro division.
You can look at all the teams that are kind of floating and on the bubble. One team that has recently
Yep.
just kind of found them pushed their way back into the picture, the Flyers, which I think, again, we're
Yeah.
talking about the Penguins and other teams, but there's that thought
Yep.
of the Keystone State battle and those two teams being back in the mix. Again, it's so much fun to kind of say, what if this, what if that, but the Flyers
Yep.
right back in it all of a sudden. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. Oh, it is, Dan. Believe me, I've looked at this. I thought there was a month ago. Not only were they ripping, the Flyers were in a bad spot, they weren't getting good goaltending. They've suffered a tough loss last night, though. Losing to Washington, they don't have the room for a hiccup. They've had great goaltending. They didn't get it last night. So, but they are right there. I would love nothing more than to see a Philly Penguin, first round series if that ever came up. But they've got a mountain to climb, if you will, with no room for error. And to get there, they're going to exhaust themselves to do it. Right? They're going to have everything they need. They're going to get it all. But I do think how they climbed back in. Washington was right there too, but there are too many games played. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Ottawa's suffering now. The losses that Ottawa's taken, the injuries that they've had on their blue line, it derailed them. So really, you're really still looking at it. If I go to the wild card, and like I said, the Atlantic is we said it's Buffalo, Tampa, and Montreal. The Pens, it's Carolina, the Pens, and the Island, right? So it's Columbus and the other teams who I'm trying to think who else is fighting right there. Boston and Columbus, right? So that's who's in the wild card spots right now. Yep. I mean, look,
Yep.
for me, I think the Senators are faltering. The Red Wings are faltering. The Flyers could climb that. They could make that really interesting down the stretch, but they need to get the same good goaltending. But when you look at these standings right here, the separation that the Penguins just got, and then you see the Islanders, they're giving away points and very, very difficult. That's why the Pens, huge win in the Island, huge win last night. They need to keep it on a roll with a tough one Thursday night, but they got Florida coming on the weekend. They can take care of business. The separations occurred. The other teams are going to be fighting it out. And like I said, and it's possible that whoever doesn't make it into Metro, the Flyers could leapfrog them. And right to your point, Dan, and I think with Phillies in the playoffs, along with the Penguins, there's a good excitement level around the league because there's natural battles with that. Maybe I'm going back in time with it because there was nothing better than playing in Philly and Philly coming to Pittsburgh. It's a battle, and the people love it. And you can feel the energy with it. So I'd love to see that. I'd love to see it for Rick Tocchet. Rick Tocchet has done an outstanding job bringing that along because they wanted to write them off a month ago. And here they are fighting right back in. But I said, tough loss for them last night, though.
So, yes, tough loss for them. And I mentioned this to
Yep.
Stuart Skinner after last night's victory against Detroit. And I'm sure, players are fans as well, scoreboard watching, whether it's on the day off or the morning of a game. But at the end of the day, doesn't it put you in the right mindset that, hey, we just take care of our own business and let the other stuff play out the way it may? And really, it seems like that's easy to do, but as a former player, can you cut out all the other noise and just say, "Hey, who's up next? We got to take care of that. That's it."
Yeah, I think your conversation with Stuart Skinner is kind of an important one because I feel like now the Penguins control their own destiny. Right, is what you're getting. They
Yes.
control their own destiny. Is that a difficult thing? Not. I don't think it is when they're being coached the way they are and how they play the game. They're all guys are have come into this game and realizing that it can get away from you. Your career can get away from you. Your playoff hopes get away from you. They've missed a number of years. So you have all these hungry players that are wanting to make something happen. I think that you control it. You don't need anybody else. You need no other help. There can't be a better situation. Does it get in their head? I don't think that's going to get in their head. Not like we've talked about this, and it's a little thing, but we mentioned about the Columbus thing with Rick Bowness making a comment 3 games ago or before they've lost 3 in a row, or one in an overtime loss. They picked up a point. Made a comment that, hey, Not when we get in playoffs. It's more like, hey, we're definitely getting into playoffs. Since that comment, they're 0-2-1. And right now, that can't happen. That maybe, we don't know if that got you. It might be hard. I'm sure anybody could go, well, how could that really bother you? Well, they had no pressure before. They were just on a roll, playing great
Yeah.
hockey, rolling into it. Now you flipped and added a little bit of pressure. That's where I think pressure can develop. I don't think the Pens, nope, they're in control. They're controlling their own destiny. Now, I don't think it's going to be hard for them to say, we've got the game Thursday night. I'm not even thinking about Florida. They haven't been playing good, even though they rolled last night. They haven't been playing good. Don't think that. I think they are going to keep them, and human nature can get away from you, right, Dan? It can happen. I don't think this coaching staff, I don't think the players in that locker room, they've missed out on the playoffs. They want to be back really bad. The fan base wants it back. Ownership wants it back. I don't think they're going to misstep that way. I said, all things being equal, I look at it. They're deeper, stronger than any of the teams that are vying for these spots. And I like the positioning. They've set themselves up to keep moving on. And I love that.
I'll tell you what I want because, again, what I want matters. Um, I want the Penguins to return to the dominance
Certainly it does,
on the
Dan.
penalty
You know
kill.
that. It does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. Sure, it does.
Yeah.
I want them to. I want them to return to the dominance they had throughout the season on the PK. And okay, so I understand not having Blake Lizotte is a big miss. It hurts.
Yeah.
But down
Yeah.
the stretch, we talk about the importance of special teams. How can they find
Yeah.
a way to get back, if not to that same high level? But look, it's been an issue the last few games. How do they resolve
Yeah.
that and make it not be such a focal point?
Okay, so I think, and you're right. I think the Blake Lizotte thing, he was a key piece of it. And when you take one key part out and you adjust, they just weren't completely in sync. Maybe not. If you have one guy go and the other three react, then you're in trouble. Or if that's so, it all has to be that you need your goaltender to be on top of it. All the things kind of come into play. I think they'll find their way back. And listen, when you get into down the stretch, the coaching staff does such a good job. They'll pre-scout. They'll give the guys every idea how they want them to play it. They're so phenomenal when a team and there's a bobble or they want to pressure. They have been really good at it. So maybe they got a little bit out of sync. They're still where they're at in the game, Dan, both power play and PK. They've been outstanding. They're tops in it, right? So I think they will get themselves back to it. I think the goaltending is going to help do that as well when there's a breakdown. But I think it's about getting you pressure them. You get clears when you need to. You really have to do that. If you see a play kept in, more often than not, there's going to be a great opportunity for the opposition if you don't get that clear. And that's kind of happened. And we saw that happen. But you can go through lulls. They take a lot of pride in what they do. Everybody does in all your roles. Every role that's in the game, Dan, there's a pride factor. This is what I bring to the team. I got to add this, and you have to be at your best. Well, that unit does that. And I think when one guy goes down, there's an adjustment, especially in a PK unit when you're going against the best players on that team. Hey, this is the best league in the world. Those guys, you have got skill sets that are unbelievable. You cannot be off. Your timing can't be off, and you're going to give up a really good look. So that's what happens when you play great teams. If you give up a good look, they're going to bear it, just like the Penguins do to the opposition.
When you talk about the PK, you also have to talk about your goaltender, and that brings us to our weekly conversation about looking back at the 10th anniversary of the Penguins' 2016 Stanley Cup title or championship. And Matt Murray, kind of just splashed onto the scene toward the end of that season. And I think it was this week back in 2016 that he stopped all 24 shots against the New York Islanders to record his first ever NHL shutout. He would then go on to play in 21 of the Penguins' 24 playoff games. What do you remember about him I can't say coming out of complete nowhere. We saw him earlier in the season in 2015 for a little bit. But what do you remember about all of a sudden, all of a sudden there's this kid and look what he's doing. And then he really made just such a difference for them in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think when you find somebody like you roll with the guy that's got a hot hand, who the team in front of him is extremely confident in. I think you found that. I think that's what they got, and that's a tough thing because of look who's waiting in the wings to get it, be back in the game, whatever it might be. But you're gonna ride the hot hand, and that's what it's all about. So I look, he had an opportunity, he seized the opportunity, and he took it all the way to the Stanley Cup, to a championship. I look at it as no more than that, Dan. I mean, um, when those opportunities arise and you're ready for it, that's what happens. And that's such a unique one, a unique situation, and you win a cup. So, I mean, that's what whoever your goaltender is, and that's for every team that makes the Stanley Cup playoffs. You're going to ride a hot hand, and you got to find who is that guy. And when you take advantage of that opportunity, and Matt Murray certainly did that. That's why he was phenomenal on that run, and you just go with it. And that's what I think. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out here in this current Penguins. But I think for Matt Murray, what he did was outstanding and threw a lot as well. So it's great, how it plays itself out. And that's sports. If one falters a little bit, you make a switch, and there's a guy that's on the run. You don't change.
So, as you mentioned, the current goaltending situation with the Penguins, and I think fans kind of sit on the edge of their seat, much like we do, to kind of see what's going to happen next. So last night, Skinner has a really solid showing against the Red Wings. If the path continues with the back and forth, let's say Shilovs gets the start in Tampa, he plays really well. It kind of takes you back to the same, thought, like what are the Penguins going to do, not only down the stretch, but when they get to the postseason. So let me start here. Do you feel that the back and forth will continue between the two goaltenders over the final few games of the regular season? I know we saw a little bit of Skinner getting, he just had back-to-back starts. But do you see that just kind of like an opportunity for the coaching staff to say, okay, we need to make a decision. Let's see what we get.
Well, I thought, and you just mentioned it, I thought when we saw Skinner back-to-back and finish up with Dallas, and I thought when they went to the Island, they were going to go with him. That's what I thought. I thought they were leading us towards that way, or thinking the same thing that you're mentioning. Certainly, Dan Muse and Andy Chiodo, they have the pulse of the goaltenders, right? They know what's up, or maybe sometimes, Dan, it's about a guy that's played well against a team and you need the points really bad. You got to go with that. Florida, back-to-backs, you're going to see them alternate this weekend coming up. But tomorrow night's going back to what you're thinking. Okay, am I going to go with Skinner or Shilovs against what we feel is going to be the best to probably get through it? I expect Tampa's got a battle. And again, it's all depending on the draws and who you get and when you get in. But if you're looking ahead at that, Tampa Bay's the team that more than likely I'd expect to see them get through into a final spot, and whatever draw they have. But if you do that, you're looking at Tampa Bay as being it's the lead in the East. So I'm thinking I would go back to Skinner. That's nothing against Shilovs. That's just, okay, eventually, Dan, I've said this a lot, even with you and I on the air, I feel you need to settle in on one guy. But the schedule's not allowed that to happen, really. It's too many back-to-backs all going on. But as you settle down and get into this last little bit, I think tomorrow night's game or Thursday night's game is going to be a sign. Are they going to go with Skinner or they go back to Shilovs? I'm really interested to see who it's going to be. As far this whole year, Andy Chiodo, Dan Muse, they've pushed the right buttons, and but I'm leaning that they're going to go Skinner. I just think of your history. You've been in 2 cup finals. That's a natural. He's been through that grind. He handles it. He's under control. And Shilovs has done the same thing. So I'm not slighting Shilovs, but if I looked at 2 guys, this guy's been in 2 finals. He's been through the wars. I would lean that way. So I'm thinking I'm thinking they're going to go back to Skinner tomorrow night. Now, I was wrong about that the other night. I thought he just started in the Island, and he did not. But tomorrow night, against a huge talented team in Tampa, I'm thinking I would have Skinner there. But listen, that's the coach's mind. Like I said, he's pushed so many right buttons, Dan. Hard to see. But I do think Saturday and Sunday you're going to see back and forth. And if they did go all the way to the end, Dan, all the way to the end, the players don't have any control, just how they play. If they go all the way to the end, then we see the decision. Might be just right then. They're going to go, okay, we played out the year. We're going to go with Shelovs or we're going to go with Skinner. It might be just like that. But I think tomorrow's game is going to tell us a lot who we see in that against Tampa Bay.
No one gets you ready for puck drop like Penguins Face Off Live. Pre-game insights, analysis, and a word straight from the coach. Penguins Face Off Live before every game on SportsNet Pittsburgh. Presented by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield.
I know that you and we enjoy breaking down the season into 10-game segments. Oh, sorry. Segments. Yeah. But I do want to ask you about
you do so well with that. Very good. Very good.
The month of March for both goaltenders, goals against combined, just over 3.5, I think 3.71. Does that concern you at all as we get ready for the last segment of games here? And how much would you like to see that number come? How important is it for that number to come down before we enter the postseason?
Well, you like to think if you score 4 goals, you're free and clear that you've got a game under your belt. But the number's pushing 4 against. Yeah, that has to be down to be successful. But there's something going on in the game today, Dan, and I think we'll probably talk about it this weekend because it's as far as netminders are concerned, the save percentage is something I look at a lot. Right, we'll look at a save percentage. A couple years ago, if you weren't a 910 to 915 save percentage, you were kind of looked at as not playing well, right? Or 910, let's say 910 and above. Now you've got, the numbers have changed dramatically. It's a quality versus quantity shot, choice, if you will. And I look no further than the goal that Rantanen scored against Skinner the other day. It was a one-time feed passed by Robertson, and he shoots it basically below the dot towards the goal line. They pass up on shots. You don't see the higher shot numbers. Carolina still puts up a big number, and I love the way Carolina plays, but they put up big number of shots. Everybody else, you'll see those numbers are lower. So if you give up 3 or 4 and you think you played a pretty good game, it's because they're searching for that unbelievable opportunity. The players are so good. I think for goaltenders, it's very difficult. So the numbers come down. I mean, the save percentage comes down, not as high as it used to be. So the article is more about, hey, the 895 save percentage is the new 915 save percentage from before. It's a different game. So I think it's about the quality of chances that you give up. The Pens are trying to be really good at it. They do a better job than most. But I think you certainly want your goals against down, but you that save percentage be at a number that we've always talked about. If you get above 900, phenomenal. It's about wins and losses. Goaltenders have to choose it, how they have to look at it. If you get on a ride and you're winning games and you think you played a great game but gave up a good number, it's still the way it goes. And that's the way the public looks at that. I think Skinner gave up 6 goals in one game, but he had 40-some shots and a lot of grade A looks. To me, those kind of games, he played a good game and he even said it so himself, but he gave up a big number. The game is different for goaltenders than it was just 5 years ago. So it's something to look at and something to remember. Go by wins and losses, and you need that goaltender. All you do need, though, Dan, you need the save that needs to be made. You need to steal a few, and then you go on from there and play just your solid game. And both goaltenders are giving that to the Pens.
You mentioned the games that are coming up over the next week, in particular, the back-to-back situation against the Panthers, who will not be in the postseason. And then they get the Devils in the middle of next week, for example, just to touch on the next few. Can playing a couple of teams like that, an opportunity to get points or, against a lesser opponent, if you will, a team that's not making the playoffs. Does that help or hurt? Does that help or hurt the team with the postseason?
That goes back to a little bit of what we said. Yeah,
go ahead. I'm
sorry.
Dan.
You finish.
Do you think that playing a lesser opponent helps you, mentally as you get ready for the playoffs, or would you want to play the best of the best to know that you're at your best going into the postseason?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So here's how I look at it. You mentioned something early in the show about maybe having a letdown between the Islanders game and Detroit. I didn't fear that, right? I didn't think that was going to happen, as I said. But a team that's out of the playoffs and you're going from Tampa, you're coming back to Florida, hasn't been playing good, but you got to watch out for them. They're the kind of games that can trip you up. They're the ones you got to watch out for. But what's going to be a difference maker for that? Both those games are here in Pittsburgh. And I think the fans will not let that happen. I think they're going to be really up for these games. And I also said before, Dan Hughes, the way he's coaching, and the way the players are about it, they know what's at stake. So for me, I think they're going to be fine. But I do feel the team that's out of the playoffs, number one, they can be dangerous, right? They want to knock people down. But I also think like a team like New Jersey, and you go into Jersey and they're not there. It's flat. It can be a flat atmosphere, right? You got to watch that. So I do think you have to be careful. That's where the coaching staff, but that's where the leaders in the locker room are not going to let that happen. That's what I'm banking on, right? But I do feel that's more of a trip up than what I felt went from the Islanders game to Detroit. I think obviously the Pens were ready to go for that. These little games with the teams are out of it, you think you might walk through it. Human nature, right? That happens. They're the games that concern me just a little bit. But I'm banking on the leadership inside that locker room that they're not going to let that happen.
Real quickly, with the Panthers coming in here, again, struggling.
Yep.
And I know they have a lot of injuries. Some key players won't be on the ice. That's still a team that won back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. There's still some guys in that room that know what it takes, which I think makes them even more dangerous when it comes to throwing a wrench into the Penguins' plans of getting a couple of wins. Because, hey, if anyone knows how to play the role of a spoiler, it's a team that just won it all, right?
Yeah. And they don't want to limp all the way into the end of the season. And think about that. I agree with that. The injuries really hurt them, right? And they played so much hockey. And it's going to be about goaltending. Like, what are you going to get? You can have a goalie that steals it on you, right, Dan? I mean, you're right. You're right about that. You got to watch it. As I said, you have to bank on your team. You have to bank on your team that's not going to let that trip them up. And you're right that you get a team that's going to come in and they're going to be hungry. They just stomped last night, right? They had a big win last night against Philly. Not Philly. That was Washington versus Philly. Florida played. I think they had a big win last night. I'm trying to think who they put there. They came out and won last night. Oh, Ottawa. Ottawa's a team trying to get in, and they jumped all over Ottawa. So you're right, Dan. That is one. They're still the champs until somebody completely takes it away. They're now not getting in, so it's going to happen. But they are players in there that have a lot of pride. They're not going to lay down. They want to come out here and do some damage, and certainly would love nothing more than to derail the Pens, chances as they move forward. So totally with you. But I'm going to go right back to what I said. I'm banking on the coaching staff, but I'm banking on the leaders in the locker room that they will not let that happen. If they get beat by a goaltender that steals the day, so be it. But they're not going to lay down and make a mistake or not take them. They're not going to take them for granted, let them walk on them. I really believe that. Those guys in the locker room are not going to let that happen. Not their makeup. Their championship mold the Pens are championship molds as well. They know what it takes to win. Led by Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Russ, Carlson, and then all the guys that were added this year are at another level, and I think they're going to continue to do that. And I said, I believe that that's what they're going to do, but you're spot on. You got to watch out for a Florida team, and it's really wild that they have 2 games at home, here for us, that they get them on Saturday and Sunday. A really wild schedule, but a plus for the Pens here.
I think the Penguins are also expecting a couple of sellouts for those games as we go through Easter weekend. But before we go, you mentioned the fact that it's going to be on the big 3 and Rust and Carlson and some of the other veterans. Yeah. But how much for let's say in particular the big 3 and we'll throw on Rust, the big 4. How much does the hunger really burn inside to make the postseason since they haven't been there in 3 years? Yeah. That's got to be even more of a push, right?
I would really think so, Dan. I do. And then you never know what you have left, right? You don't know. Like, you can't, they're not taking anything for granted. They're going to go out there, play like we saw them last night, and they're not taking this opportunity. They're not going to let it slide. I don't believe that. So that's what so much is left in that. They want to go out and get into the playoffs, do their thing, and make a run. Nobody thought they would be there, right? We watched them. We see them grow. I do think that leadership and that they're not going to want to let this opportunity slide away at all. Because it's sometimes, look how it got away from them, and all of a sudden, year after year after year, and even not winning series before. You're going back 6+ years where you didn't even win a series. All that stuff is in their head. They know it, and they don't want to let this happen. They're not going to let it continue. I think that's strong of leadership in those ways inside there. And the pieces that Kyle Dubas brought in, it's been a perfect fit for almost every guy. It's amazing to me. I mean, what a great fit. And they all have contributed. The numbers reflect it. So, yeah, the big 3, 4, 5s, we can say so many guys right there. But those players do not want to miss out on the playoffs, number one. And they want to go as far as they can possibly go. And I think they have the skill level, talent, and drive inside that locker room to do that.
And you know what? We're hungry as well. We want postseason pre- and post-game shows and broadcasts, right?
We do, Dan. That's right. So we have a little more. We can have pizza nights like we usually do. That's what we'll do. Yeah, Dan. We do. We want it bad too. We really, you know what, Dan? You know, when you've been through it the way you have and what we've followed and covered, you know, from our roles, yeah, there's nothing better than this atmosphere. You can even feel it now. Really, when you're in late March and you're pushing April, the weather's changing, but the fans here, they're clamoring for it too. It's something that we all thrive for, and to watch the guys perform and do that, yeah, pretty special, Dan. And working alongside you with it is very nice.
Yes, likewise. I look forward to see how things come together for the Penguins, and look forward to riding alongside you and others as we get ready to talk about the Penguins here in the month of April. Hey, Jay, as always, thanks so much for the time. I'll see you soon, okay, buddy?
You got it, Dan. My pleasure.
Thanks.